Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If it is your first time clicking on one of my videos, my name is Heather, and today I have not one, but two. That's four. I have two Haunted Mansion inspired crafts for you guys. One will be a pair of wire ears and the other will be a wreath. We will be starting off with the wreath. I made a wreath last year and I absolutely loved it. It was a willow wreath and it had Mickey ears, sort of like the one I made in springtime. If you guys saw that, I will link my DIY playlist below. But I didn't want to make it exactly the same because I didn't want two identical wreaths in my house. So there were a couple of elements that I kept the same, and I'll pop a picture in here. If you followed me last year on Instagram, you probably have already seen it. So I wanted to kind of duplicate it for you guys, but also not have the same thing in my house. So I'm going to be doing that first, and then we're going to be moving on to a pair of DIY Haunted Mansion inspired wire ears with the leftovers from that wreath. So I hope that you will come along and join me on this tutorial. First, before we get started, I wanted to share with you my awesome Beware of Hitchhiking Ghosts and my Haunted Mansion inspired ears made by Sarah over at Dream It DIY. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it below. I am part of the Boo Ball taking place the entire month of October. It is my birthday month. I'm super excited to be watching a new video every single day. So if that is your first time hearing about it, I'm also gonna link that below so you guys can check out the awesome box that Sarah made for me. In the spirit of the crafts that I'll be making today, I wanted to make sure that I was wearing all of these items. So let's just jump into it. So I am going to be using this willow wreath again. You can choose to add Mickey ears or you can choose to make a smaller version. I'm going to be using these purple flower stems, also from the Dollar Tree, as well as these clip-on bats. I'm also going to be using a skeleton from this skeleton garland that I found, as well as a coffin candy box. I'm going to be recreating a scene in the Haunted Mansion. I also found these black glittery branches. I think they're very eerie and work with just about anything. And then I'm not sure what this fabric is called or material, but it is in the Halloween section at the Dollar Tree as well. Next, I found these purple fairy lights. You're going to need glue and a glue gun. First, we're going to start recreating that scene in the Haunted Mansion with the little coffin. Of course, there's a cute, scary guy inside, but we're going to add our own so we can have the hands pushing up the coffin. These are pretty flexible, so you'll see in a little bit that I'm going to be bending and shaping them. They don't have hinged arms or anything, so you have to really manipulate and bend them in the shape that you want. If you can find some elsewhere that are hinged, like at the elbow, that would be really helpful. I just am cheap and I wanted to bend it and it worked just fine. So I'm just finding the placement for his hands to be on the coffin itself, and like you can see, I'm bending his arm in half. Don't worry, he doesn't feel it, but I'm just bending it that way it will hold up in the right position. As you can see here, I am applying hot glue to the outside because that's where I want his hand to appear. And there will be a little gap on the inside where when it's on the wreath, you can actually see his arms coming out of it. You can add that a little step further by Halloween day or whenever you're going to be having this hanging up in your house by throwing a little glue stick inside, like a little green one, and having that same glow come out of it. It's something I thought of as I'm editing, and I'm like, oh, that would have been so cool. But you can kind of see here how I glued the end of the box to keep it from slipping and how his hands look peeping out of the box itself. So just apply pressure there with the glue. And if you wanted to take it a little step further, you could always apply glue right here inside that edge as well. Just come up further from what I did and it will hold it a little bit better. You can also put some glue to secure around his hands on the inside of the actual coffin itself. I'm going to be taking this fabric and folding it in half and then tying a knot to secure the ends together, and I'm just going to glue it to give it this little spooky, eerie something. I don't know. I just really fell in love with this fabric material, and I'm just cutting it at an angle so it looks kind of sloppy and messy and tattered and worn. And I just basically go around and secure it with some hot glue around the wreath itself. Make sure you have something to push down the material into the hot glue because it definitely is see-through and you will get burnt. So just continue to secure it around, but you do want to leave the bottom open because you want it to hang. Next, check where your coffin is going to need that hot glue, add your hot glue, and then hold it very securely until it is dry. It is heavier, so it does take a minute for it to completely dry and set up. Here I'm just laying the first flower in and gluing it in so I can eyeball where I want these branches to go. I absolutely love these as part of this wreath. I used them in my last one, and I just think it adds a really cute, spooky element. On this side, I am adding a branch to each side of the flowers to give it a little bit more of some depth, but you can add as little or as much as you like. Obviously, you can just make this your own. I also thought of a great idea that you could get some glow-in-the-dark paint and paint the wreath with that. That way it's going to give that green glow that all of the Haunted Mansion glow-in-the-dark stuff looks like. I think that would be really awesome, and I was going to do that. However, I wanted to make this as affordable as possible and as cheap as possible, and I only wanted to get everything from the same store. So I'm just going to go ahead with these purple LED lights. I'm going to hot glue it to the back of the coffin, but make sure that you're doing it on the side that does not have the screw. That way, when you need to change the batteries, you have access to it and you don't have to pop anything off. You just unscrew it, change your batteries, and hang it back up. Now that the battery pack is secure, I'm just going to be loosely wrapping these lights around. I wanted them to kind of shine up through the trees and around the flowers, and I only did use one flower on the coffin side. I don't know if that translated very well or not. I guess it was kind of hard to see, but yeah, I'm just going to keep loosely wrapping these around, and I'm careful to make sure that I'm not cinching up that material. I still want it to hang down, so I had to be very mindful of where those lights were placed so that it didn't make it bunch up underneath. I wanted my last light to be up in the branches, so I just took a little dot of hot glue and added it to the light and stuck it to the branch so it would stay. It also secured it to keep it from unraveling once I do decide to take it down. And here is the finished project. I absolutely love the glow of those purple lights. I think it's so simple, yet so pretty, and it definitely screams the Haunted Mansion. And I love at just the right angle, you can see the hands popping out of that coffin. All of these items for the wire ears I got at the Dollar Tree. Aside from this headband, it comes in a 3-pack at Walmart. I went ahead and made the first ear so you could see how it would look, but you're going to need a candle, something to shape the ear with, something to wrap that wire around. You're also going to need the leftover flowers from your wreath, or you can buy a separate bunch for that specifically, but I don't think that you'll really need to. I also am going to use this black fabric to make a bow. So as you can see, I wrap my wire around the ear. I don't use the method of actually leaving the wire on top. I like it wrapped around, and I'll show you how I did that. But first of all, I take a piece of that wire and wrap it very tightly, and I kind of use my hands to shape all the way around it so it's nice and snug all the way around. And once it is, I pinch the ends together, and I will twist it at the end to make it a little bit more secure. It just makes it hold that shape just a little bit more. Then I measure 2 inches apart, not where I actually place the wire that connects to the ear, but the actual sides of the ear itself. And I place a little piece of hot glue there to mark that for me, so I kind of know where the edge of that needs to be. Then I lay the ear flat, and I press my hand down where I have pinched it together, and I gently fold that up so it's kind of like in an L shape. I know this angle is really hard to see that, but that is basically what I did. And then I find that placement where the edge of the ear would be, and hello, Heather got off camera. But there you can kind of see it. And I just use my hands to pinch it and to wrap it on the underside of the headband. You want to make sure that the tips of the edge of those wires are going to be facing away from you. You don't want them to be sticking out the front, and we will cover those at the end with some ribbon, so don't worry about those being exposed. So I'm slipping that off, and I'm going to place some hot glue there, and then I'm going to be slipping it back on. Be very, very careful when you do this, because it's kind of hard to slip it on without touching it and getting your hand in the hot glue. So just be very, very careful. Next, I flip it over and add some more hot glue to the bottom to kind of help secure it to the headband so it doesn't slip. And don't worry, everything that you hot glue on wire ears is going to get covered up with flowers, so don't worry about using too much. In my opinion, you can never use too much because you do want them to hold in place and last for a very long time. I know you guys have probably seen 1,000 bow tutorials, so I'm not really going to go into the details of it. It's kind of self-explanatory once you see it, so I'm not going to go into that, but I just wanted to go ahead and make sure I filmed it so you could see the whole process. I will say though that normally I will put a strip of fabric in the middle, but this time I'm using this little twist tie because something I'm about to do is going to need it to be a little bit more secure, and I don't know if the hot glue would be able to hold it together and the bow might separate later. So you notice when we made that wreath, I didn't use any of the bats. I used it in my last wreath to help kind of secure the scarf that I put on there. I made a ribbon out of the scarf, so I'm going to be using a bat in the middle of the bow, and I really wanted that to be held together a little tightly more than just fabric and hot glue, so I used a twist tie. So I'm adding this little bat, and I love how it's kind of just hidden in there a little bit. You can't really see it, but it's just another little hint of the Haunted Mansion that you know is in there. Next, I'm just finding the center of the headband and I'm securing the bow. I will say, if you can see that bat tail hanging at the bottom, you might want to cut that off. It was super cute when I put them on and everything, but after a little bit, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm being stabbed in the head. So make sure to cut that bat tail off because it's not that comfortable. Now I'm just going to start securing the flowers, and I'm just going to go around the bow, and I do put these on the front and back as well as the sides, as you will see coming up in just a few seconds. Again, extra secure them with hot glue. You want to make sure that everything is going to stay in place. The more the merrier. And I did leave the eyeballs and the flowers on the back. I don't know why. They just made my heart very happy, so I decided to add those. So here you can see I'm going to be adding a flower to the side to kind of help cover up some of the glue, and it just makes it look a little bit fuller. And I think these flowers are the best flowers I have ever seen in my life. I know Siri used them for a lot of the wonderful handmade items that she sent me, and I absolutely love them. And we have leftover little branches, so we're just going to use those as well. Why not? Again, you can totally make this your own creation, and I hope that you do decide to share it with me. Here I'm just slipping it in between the flower petals, and I'm using each side of the flower petals to kind of stick it together and hold it in place. And I'm going to do that again on the other side. Now I'm going to use this cotton ribbon. It almost feels like a shoelace, but I like to line my headbands with this a lot. It's just like a really soft fabric, and I think that it would be nice against your head. It's not something that would snag in your hair, so I really do like to use that. And I'm adding a little bit of hot glue on the inside of the headband, and this is what I was talking about, covering those wires so you weren't going to get them caught in your hair. Once I did get to the wires, I actually took my nail and pressed around the wires into the hot glue. That way there wasn't a gap there that could cause that to potentially pull the ribbon up later on. So I made sure to really press around that so it is a nice tight fit all the way around that. And of course I do that when I get to the other side as well. And I just continue until I'm at the end of the other side of the headband. Here is how it looks as it's finished. And I absolutely love the way they look. I have to say, I am absolutely obsessed with all that sparkle. I love the way you can see that bat when you're close up and when the light's on it. And of course, they look absolutely amazing on. Thank you so much for coming along with me. I hope that this video has inspired you to make your own wire ears or your Haunted Mansion inspired wreath. Make sure to let me know in the comments below if you decide to make any of these, because I would love to see your own creations. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that before you leave, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!